Yeah, it
It's
was
so good
flawlessly balanced.
There was some pretty bad balancing, especially at the start, and I think that
You're a fanboy.
I'm not a fanboy. It's actually legitimately so fair, and it's because of the size of the teams that allows for like kind of offside battles, as well as like the sheer variety of weapon combinations makes it so that there's
Why
no.
don't you write a little poem about it?
Dude, I probably have already.
It's obviously not getting the kind of performance that I would get out of a base tier NVIDIA GPU, but I'm anywhere from 70 to 100 FPS, even in a firefight.
That's not great.
It's playable.
Look! Now, when we tried games that were not on the supported list, was it just universally not compatible? Like Factorio, is that supported?
No.
Oh.
But you get a lot of these. They're making driver checks and calls at the start.
Yeah.
And they'll just be like, nope.
So it's fairly crap then.
Yeah, it's basically garbage.
I mean, I couldn't build one, but then I haven't likely stolen a bunch of IP from NVIDIA.
Took them 2 years to make a GPU and you 3 years to make a screwdriver.
Yeah, thanks for that, Adam. That's really helpful. Ooh, here we go. Oh, interesting. They went and they created a custom connector here so that they can carry all of these PWM signals and 12-volt power to the fans separately. This 8-pin EPS power connector passes through to a 4-pin. Does it even actually draw 250 watts or whatever it's rated
We
for?
saw it drawing 250.
But they're actually doing it through a 4-pin plus the 75 watts from the slot. Okay. All the VRMs are along the top edge of the board. I don't think I've ever seen that before. This is a little like grounding tab for the cooler. Samsung memory chips. I mean, they're labeled Samsung. It's definitely a More Threads die though. What a curious product. On the one hand, it supports the latest standards, but on the other hand, it barely works, you know? If you were wondering if there's any merit to it outside of gaming, unfortunately we weren't able to test AI. Maybe that's part of their play, since right now China's having a hard time getting their hands on powerful AI accelerators. But if the AI performance is anything like productivity performance, let's just say the lack of a 7-day, no questions asked return policy is not a big surprise to us. So why is it bad? Unlike CPUs, there are very few options for open or licensable GPU architectures. The biggest players all like to keep their secret sauce firmly in their satchel, meaning that More Threads had to design their architecture from the ground up. Or, well, I mean, they probably didn't. Even if you possess considerable knowledge and funding, making your own architecture, iterating on that, putting it into a board and shipping it could easily take 10 years, let alone 2. And this is just their first consumer GPU. More Threads have already released several enterprise GPUs, meaning something is amiss here. And that's where we gotta kind of pull the sheets off of China's big secret. This isn't quite a fully Chinese GPU. Korean tech channel Bull Labs did some digging and noticed that the company actually licensed IP from Imagination Technologies, the company that owns the Power VR architecture. You might have heard from them from when they helped make GPUs for Apple in the days of the early iPhones and iPads. Now, lots of companies license IP from others. I mean, all of Apple's impressive M-series chips are based on ARM, but they also don't claim to be all American chips. Except, technically, Imagination Technologies is owned by Canyon Bridge Capital Partners, who are in turn funded by the Chinese central government, making this, well, technically a Chinese GPU. Now, China understands the disadvantages of needing to lean on the rest of the world for their chips. That's why the Chinese government announced they were investing $1.4 trillion into tech in 2020, making Biden's government's $53 billion CHIPS Act look like walking around money. And while More Threads is the most prominent player that we've seen, at least over here in the West, China's not putting all their eggs in one basket and actually has numerous GPU projects and companies on the go. So then, does this mean we're gonna see rippin' fast Chinese GPUs in just a couple more years? Probably not. I mean, first off, tensions between China and the US are pretty high right now. We've seen the Huawei ban, a potential TikTok ban, and Joey B cracking down on Chinese access to Western-designed GPUs from the likes of NVIDIA, not to mention important semiconductor IP. So there is a chance that these GPUs may actually never end up being sold in North America, though that could be a bit of an advantage for them because it would mean that there was that big leak of NVIDIA IP a little while back. They could utilize some of the things they found without worrying about any kind of import restrictions. On top of that, the Chinese government seems more interested in limiting gaming performance than investing in gaming hardware, so it's likely that this is more of an AI play than a gaming play. Nothing is for certain though right now, except that this card totally sucks, and even if you have access to it, you shouldn't buy it, and that I have this message to tell you about from our sponsor.
XSplit. XSplit is a cutting-edge software company trusted by millions of creators, businesses, and organizations that provides advanced broadcasting and video production tools for creators and gamers and businesses. XSplit offers a range of products like Broadcaster and VCam. Broadcaster allows users to capture, produce, and stream high-quality video content to popular platforms like Twitch and YouTube. You can customize your broadcast with different sources, beautiful effects, and slick transitions, while VCam allows users to remove, replace, or blur their webcam background during a video call or a live stream or just recording. Create a more professional looking and distraction-free video experience without the need for a physical green screen. So check out XSplit today at lmg.gg/xsplit and start creating and sharing amazing video content that will engage and inspire your audience. Use code Linus for a 69% off your first purchase or subscription.
If you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out the video we made on China's homegrown x86 CPU from Zhaoxin? I'd be interested to see what a new one looks like. Whatever your political beliefs, we can all agree that China and the West have taken on a more adversarial relationship in recent years. So whether you're rooting for Chinese innovation or wary of it, we wanted to make this video a window into what exactly is going on over in the 100-acre wood. Now there is one part of this build we couldn't get from a Chinese company yet: the processor. There are several domestic x86 chips, like the Zhaoxin that we looked at a few years ago, but they are nowhere near the performance and efficiency of a modern Intel or AMD chip. More like CS slow. That is why we settled on the next best thing: Intel's Black Edition China exclusive Core i5-13490F. It's basically a 13400F, but with increased boost clocks and 20% more level 3 cache. There's no official word from Intel on why these exist or who they're even targeting with them, but Intel has been building these Black Edition chips for the Chinese market for 3 generations now. Just like how for 3 generations my forefathers have been producing Segways. To our sponsor, Odoo. Throw away all those mismatching apps that you've been using to run your business. Odoo's all-in-one business software can help you focus on improving your business, not juggling apps. Click the link below or watch till the end of this video to learn more. To pair with our deliciously smooth Black Label processor, Maxsun sent over their iCraft Z790 white motherboard. It's got all the usual accessories in the box, like a QR code that you can scan that thanks you for choosing their graphics card, the user manual, which is also a QR code you scan and only available in Chinese. Luckily, Google Translate does PDFs now, as well as the standard cables, a nice little case badge, and some ultra kawaii enchanted princess stickers. But that's not what I'm into. This is what I'm into. It comes with a mounting plate that you can use while you test your build outside the case. How cool is that? And it even comes with a little screwdriver. It has a Gen 5 GPU slot with a mix of Gen 3 and 4 for the rest. All 4 M.2 slots are Gen 4, and it's got a pretty decent mix of I.O. considering the price. USB 20 gig, 2.5 gig LAN, Intel Wi-Fi, and a handy-dandy clear CMOS button on the back. Altogether, this is an uncharacteristically premium-looking motherboard from a brand that I've only ever really known for its weird products. And for 1149 yuan MSRP, or about $160 US, it's right in line with the cheapest Z790 motherboards on the market, though maybe that makes sense that they can't charge a premium given their brand reputation. Back in 2018, it was revealed that some of Maxsun's H310 motherboards weren't using the H310 chipset at all. Instead, they used minor hardware modifications and some BIOS hackery to make H110 chipsets appear as H310, allowing the use of 8th gen Intel processors. But what they couldn't spoof was the ability to use DDR4 RAM. However, none of this is so bad that they don't deserve a shot at redemption, and Maxsun's strategy seems to be a good one, targeting the budget-minded, high-end gamer, which is going to end up being a bit of a theme for this build. Continuing with our RAM. We'll be using this pair of dual-channel 16GB Sharp Blade DDR5 sticks from KingBank that, ow! No, I'm just kidding, they're not actually sharp. They run at 6,400 megatransfers per second, support XMP3, and, this is cool, KingBank lists the exact chips that they're using on these sticks, which is a welcomed move that I wish more manufacturers would adopt. As long as we can trust them to use what they say they're using. And KingBank, I'm not so sure. See, they say they've been around since 2001, but their website only shows up on the Wayback Machine as far as 2018, and their account on the popular e-commerce platform JD.com was opened only in 2016. It's not the only thing we were able to dig up on them. They were sued alongside ADATA by the alleged inventor of the USB flash drive back in 2016. But aside from this lawsuit, there doesn't seem to be any readily available information on Google dating them before 2016. On Baidu, however, the iChicha Business Encyclopedia, similar to Bloomberg, shows them as being registered in 20. Regardless, they weren't publicly a noteworthy player in the memory space until sometime after the Made in China 2025 campaign kicked off in May 2015. That campaign kickstarted a lot of Chinese tech companies and birthed even more. One of those companies is the semiconductor fabricator YMTC, who has made a lot of progress since their founding in 2016, and who made this SSD. This YMTC Zhitai PC005 came from a seller on Newegg. It's 1 terabyte and it's only PCIe Gen 3, but it's noteworthy because it was the first SSD to be produced entirely in mainland China. It's been common for years to find some made-in-China components on an SSD, but NAND flash chips are usually produced by Korean or Japanese companies, while the controllers have often been produced in Taiwan. Fun fact, by the way, these chips likely would have been used in the iPhone 15 were it not for international sanctions. Originally, the plan was to use these chips for iPhones sold in China, but because of their lower cost, Apple eventually changed the plan to use these for up to 40% of their iPhone NAND overall. At least they were going to do that until 2022, when the US government added YMTC to the trade ban list, meaning they were no longer able to use American technologies in their products or their manufacturing processes, leading Apple to drop them from their plans. Lenovo still uses YMTC drives in some of their China-exclusive systems, though. Now let's talk cooling. PC Cooler sent us a couple different options from their new CPS line of parts that's aimed at the higher-end market. And this is the CPS BE360, a 360mm AIO with dual pumps, whatever that means, aluminum fins, and a copper base. There's not much other information to glean from the outside. The base kind of looks like it uses an Asetek cold plate, but also the mounting mechanism is totally different, and Asetek doesn't use dual pumps, so maybe it's their own homegrown thing. I noticed as I was playing with these fans, like, wow, these are really rigid. These feel really good. Wow, they look an awful lot like Noctuas. They've even got the little removable rubber corner pieces, so boy, are they ever similar. We weren't able to find much else about this cooler company, but they also sent us this fish tank looking case. It's kind of similar to the NZXT H9 Flow, but with a $100 MSRP, which is $60 cheaper, it looks pretty impressive. It supports ATX, MATX, Mini ITX, and the new YTX motherboard size, as well as having support for backside mounted connectors. It's undeniably a little cramped to work in. I found that in particular, screwing in these bottom motherboard screws was pretty tricky, but for its size, it has ample support for fans and radiators, even if it lacks some creature comforts like support for a vertical GPU mount or support for any GPU over 400 millimeters. Though, luckily, the biggest RTX 4090 we came across was 380 millimeters, so you can put pretty much whatever you want in this thing. This is looking great so far, aside from the weird yellow discoloration on the water cooling tubes. Anywho, along with their motherboard, Maxsun also sent over their RTX 4080, which I've been informed is gamer best choice. All right, Maxsun, let's have a look, shall we? They've got a stabilizer included in the box and a GPU that feels beefy enough to need, oh my goodness. Did they sneak into my brain to come up with the aesthetics for this backplate? Tanner's giving me a look, but I like it. Triple fan cooler on the other side, and it's got a shorter PCB, see it ends right here, so you get some of that blow-through action that helps with cooling. It's not white though.
The annoying part is that they do actually have a white version that matches the branding with the Enchantment Heart Princess thing. It would have really matched the aesthetic of this build, but what you gonna do?
Other than the mismatched looks, I have no complaints, but on the ever-popular GPU forum on Baidu, which is kind of China's version of Google, users have compared Maxsun's after-sales support to ASUS, for what that's worth. When one user returned a GPU with a noisy fan, they were told it arrived with a scratch and therefore wouldn't be covered under warranty because of physical damage. Maxsun allegedly pushed the customer to pay for repairs. Then when the customer refused, they said, okay, well, we're just gonna send it back without repairing it. Except when it came back, the customer noted that the serial number didn't match the serial number of the card they sent. Maxsun did end up issuing a public apology, as they should, and claimed that they would punish the entire customer service team involved in the incident, but whether they learned from that experience or not remains to be seen. What I know now is that this thing at least looks pretty interesting, even if we would have preferred the waifu edition. At this point, we're pretty much done with this side of the case, and it's time to turn our attention to the back, where cable management needs to be a thing. And also, we've got to install our power supply. But what power supply is it? Well, we went a little overkill and purchased the 1200 watt Great Wall Hunter's Fire F12 on AliExpress. Despite having fire in big letters on the front of the box, it seemingly is a fairly solid offering. 80 plus platinum, advertising 93.7% efficiency, and Japanese capacitors. From what we can tell, it appears they're manufactured by Nichicon, Rubicon, and possibly Nippon Chemicon. Now granted, we have not sent this through the labs team yet, as of the time of writing, but we are going to link to the results for this power supply in a pinned comment as soon as we've got them. It feels really light for a 1200 watt power supply. Price-wise, it's listed usually for around $140 US on popular Chinese marketplace sites, which is pretty appealing for this wattage and efficiency level, but we didn't choose it for the price. Great Wall is a very widely distributed brand around the globe, but remains relatively unknown in the West. This is likely by design, since their focus is on their OEM work rather than their own branded power supplies. They provide PSUs for all kinds of pre-builts, as well as for better-known enthusiast brands like Corsair and ASUS. This model even uses Corsair Type 4 cables, meaning that our kit from CableMod worked perfectly. Now, Great Wall is an organization that is really interesting. As a subsidiary of the state-owned China Electronics Corp, their sister companies are involved in all kinds of shenanigans. There's Tongguang Group, an electrical infrastructure manufacturer who's assisted with building Belarus's nuclear power plant, and Fidium, a fabless semiconductor company who makes ARM server processors, including for the servers that were used to test China's DF-17 hypersonic missile. There's also Panda Electronics, who manufactures and assembles desktops and laptops, including these kind of neat-looking water-cooled gaming PCs that they built for North Korea. They even included a Corsair power supply in it. Big moment. Time to see if it works. Or wait, no, we're gonna need a monitor. Another interesting OEM that many of you might not have heard of is KTC, who has a history of producing displays for the likes of Samsung, ViewSonic, and LG. The MSRP for this bad boy is around $200 US, but on Taobao it regularly sells for $140 to $150. Unfortunately, the height isn't adjustable, but it's otherwise comparable to this ONN 27-inch curved monitor from Walmart that has the same resolution, size, panel type, refresh rate, and response time. This one, notably, has 2 DisplayPort inputs rather than 2 HDMIs, and support for HDR10. Although, at this contrast ratio, I'd probably rather have the more robust stand from the ONN. KTC does produce mini LED and OLED displays as well, but at much higher prices. Let's see if it works. Ooh. Were all these RGB fans included at that $100 price?
Yeah, 6 of them.
Man, this build looks kinda awesome. And look, it even booted. But wait, I'm gonna need peripherals. Meet the Hecate G3M Pro by Hecate G3M Pro by Edifier. Yes, that Edifier, the one that we do know in the West, but more for their premium audio products. Their Hecate branded esports peripherals includes a few keyboards, mice, and mobile phone chillers. The G3M Pro weighs 62 grams, features a PAW3395 sensor, and a little switch on the bottom to switch between switches? That's right, you heard me. You switch between the switches. Noisy, quiet, noisy, quiet. The noisy switch is a Huano Blue Shell Pink Dot, while the quiet one is a Huano Micro Motion switch. That's better. And how much fun is this vibrant yellow USB-C charging cable? These are available for $40 on Chinese sites like mechkeys.com, or $55 if you want the transparent version. And at that price, it seems like a pretty good value. Across all 3 pairing modes and with both switch types, it managed very reasonable latency results with only about a half a millisecond added by the 2.4 gigahertz wireless dongle. You know what else has a wireless dongle? This F98 keyboard sent to us by Aula. It's a 99 key layout, it weighs a kilogram, and it will run the average Taobao or JD shopper around 370 yuan, or a bit more than $50 US. Really? That's it, huh? She clacks pretty nice for 50 bucks. Like many of the products we've looked at today, it's more expensive through Western brands like EpoMaker because, I don't know, you Guilo, I guess. But anywho, it's hot swappable and uses semi-transparent Ace Soul switches made by Leobog, Aula's sister company. For our first run, not too bad. Function shift seems to change the mode of the RGB on the side that I didn't even notice before. It's only on one, no, it's on both sides.
Function tab changes the, you can see here as I go function tab.
Not on mine.
Not on your, really? Just wondering if there's a lock somewhere here or something.
Hey, there we go. Function backslash. Here's all your different lighting modes. Dang, that's cool. And in our labs tests, we found some really great consistency across the board with the switches traveling 4 millimeters with a 1.9 mil 40 gram actuation point and a bottom out force of 55 grams. Now, that's not to say we didn't have any issues on one of our units. The screws that hold the nameplate onto the front here have caused the transparent plastic to do what transparent plastic does best, cracking, but it's only a little bit. And overall, given the price, I really like this thing. Aula's biggest claim to fame is not their own branded products though, but rather their status as an OEM of keyboards, mice, and headphones for companies like HP, AOC, Philips, and Lenovo's Leku. They also have a wide array of very entry-level mechanical keyboards that can be purchased in bulk for dirt cheap. But this collab with EpoMaker seems to indicate that their focus could be on premium products in the longer term. Now it's time to try it all together. I'll accept that. It's time to play some games on this thing, but before we do, overall guys, I am kind of loving the look of this build and the overall value per dollar. Other than the GPU, which is on the expensive side for a 4080, everything in here is really reasonable, especially this keyboard. I am loving this keyboard mouse combo for under $100. One thing I'm noticing right away is that this SSD is not very fast. Its usage is extremely high, and the data rate while patching Halo Infinite is pretty slow. Let's give it a quick rebooty boot and see if maybe, you know, we can enable XMP, tell it, hey, maybe you want a turbo for a little bit longer, that sort of thing. Pretty normal looking BIOS layout. Oh, that's cool. Legacy game compatibility mode. You can press the scroll lock key to toggle the efficient course between being parked and unparked when the LED is on and off. Is this a thing?
I have no idea.
I have maybe I just missed it, but I had not seen that before. Oh, turbo. Here we go. Okay. I don't see any obvious way to increase the turbo duration or anything like that, though. So, all right, let's see. Wait a second now. This is curious. Power button on the motherboard. Sure, that I expect to see. Power button on the GPU. What do you do? I didn't even notice that was a screen. Is it even a screen? Or, no. No, it's just LED lighting with a clear. Okay, still that's pretty cool though. There's one here too. All right, let's see if those memory settings stuck. Yep, 6400. Maybe the CPU just didn't need to turbo that high yet. Guess we'll find out. Oh, there it goes. Oh, I saw 4 gigahertz there. All right. By the way, did you guys notice our white cable ties we were using earlier? We have so many different colors on LTT Store. No complaints when it comes to performance. Good gravy. We're looking at anywhere from 150 to 200 FPS in the 1% low. So averages are more like 200. 50 FPS, and this is at 1440p Ultra in Halo Infinite. I think the star of the show is the case. Just outstanding. $100 with all that RGB, all that cooling potential, and looking like that. For better or for worse, guys, it is a really interesting time for Chinese PC tech. Semiconductor manufacturing on the mainland continues to grow and evolve, while the government seems dead set on eliminating any dependence on foreign technology, which is, of course, the primary drive behind their Made in China 2025 initiative. Just like the major initiative I have to tell you about our sponsor, oh no! Odoo. So you're running a business, but it's held together by a bunch of different software, kind of like our car that owes a great debt to duct tape. Odoo has a better idea. Use their all-in-one business management software. It takes the essential elements of any business and combines them into one unified operating system. The CRM and sales apps make lead generation and closing deals easier than ever, while their point of sale and inventory apps turn selling and product tracking from a chore into child's play. And their accounting app automatically creates invoices, sends them, and integrates with 28,000 banks from all around the world. And if you don't even need all of that, Odoo is highly customizable. You only have to choose the apps that your business requires. And if you find yourself only ever needing a single app, you can use it for free. Best of all, Odoo has a user-friendly interface with AI-powered features and a support team that'll have your back. So don't overwhelm your business with a bunch of software. Odoo! Unify your processes by checking out the link below for a free 14-day trial or to set up a demo with Odoo's expert team. If you guys enjoyed this video, check out the pre-built PC we bought from Taobao. It had a very strange motherboard in it that is worth taking a look at. In your new GPU and then upgrade later if you really want to.
You could, as long as you've already got the power supply headroom.
Yeah, this is freaking awesome.
400 watts.
Oh, wow. And so much more efficient, which tells us we are still very CPU bottlenecked.
Oh, 100%. Our card's fans aren't even turned on. I mean, even if we are capping the frame rate.
That is flipping wild. Okay, why is that frame rate capped though?
I don't know.
You know what? I bet that frame rate cap is a big part of why the CPU is not causing issues as well. Because we're not just running it right up against the limit.
Yep.
Okay, Jedi Fallen Order. I feel good. We're gonna play a reasonably modern game on this ancient freaking platform.
Plus a 3090 Ti.
Well, plus a 3090 Ti. Minor details.
You know,
is better,
not
but
much.
still sucks.
Yeah, this is still very hitchy. I'll give it a sec. Maybe it'll warm up.
You know what I want to do now?
What?
Not now, but now that I've seen this, I want to get those 980 Ti's running on something a little newer. They might not be that bad.
6 gigs of VRAM though.
I feel like this is CPU again. Oh, wait, no, we're at like 100 FPS. Also, it's not hitching as much anymore.
Yeah, it warmed up.
This kind of settled in. This is like
Playable.
perfect now.
Playable.
What do you mean
Perfect,
playable?
perfect is a stretch. See, it's not perfect. When he goes to new areas and it has to load for a second, it struggles.
It is damn playable.
Markedly better.
I'd like to see you play this game on your 13-year-old console.
Oh yeah, no, that's not gonna work.
Mind you, your 13-year-old console wouldn't have cost you $1,000 to upgrade.
Or to begin with.
You know what else needs an upgrade? This Segway. Just kidding, not yet. I wanted to talk about how much fun we had building this. Okay, it was kind of a disaster and there were compatibility issues, just like in the old days, but like, overclocking, man. We got a meaningful improvement in performance in Crysis for like 15, 25 minutes of effort. Do you guys even overclock anymore? We're gonna link a community poll in the video description. It just doesn't feel worth it, and man, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the polo shirt with the collar or the old hardware, but this was an absolute blast, even if the price made no sense and it was inefficient as all hell. Just like this inefficient segue to our sponsor. FlexiSpot. You know, sitting is so last year. Standing is what the kids are into these days, and FlexiSpot knows this. That's why their E7 Plus standing desk is so darn solid. Unlike typical 2-leg standing desks, the E7 Plus's 4-leg design gives it a leg up on the competition, boasting a weight capacity of up to 540 pounds static and 440 pounds lifting. This extra support means rock solid stability, so no more worrying about all the stuff on your desk toppling over just from you breathing on it. And unlike some other 4-leg desks, it supports a variety of accessories like monitor mounts, under-desk drawers, and keyboard trays. Plus, with a generous 15-year warranty, you can trust in its durability for years to come. Even the control panel is advanced with programmable height presets and a USB charging port. Check out the FlexiSpot E7 Plus using the link below and use the code provided to get $50 off your order of $500 or more. If you guys enjoyed this video, why not check out the predecessor to this, Intel Skull Trail? It was worse. Thanks to Overlord from our forum, I have got my hands on a really unique piece of computing history here. This is the Intel Extreme Series D5400XS, a $650 motherboard that didn't work without two $1,500 CPUs and anywhere from $250 to $500 worth of special memory. Not 100% sure what the pricing was like. Information going back that far is a little scarce, because all that pricing that I just fed you guys is based on information that I could find from 2008. Yes, my friends, this right here was the heart of a system that, once you account for graphics cards, power supplies, case, drives, cooling, could easily cost you $5,000 to $7,000 for a finished tower, right up there with the most expensive enthusiast systems today. Now, at the time, one of the main criticisms of the Skull Trail platform was its high price to performance ratio, especially because at the time, well, it was hard to find applications that scaled beyond 2 cores. But how has it aged? There's only one way for us to find out. By sitting through this segue to our sponsor, Glasswire. With Glasswire, you can see what's going in and out of your PC when you're connected to the internet. So use Glasswire to see if there are any suspicious apps that are behaving badly on your PC. Offer code Linus gets you 25% off at the link below. This thing is in absolutely incredible condition. Like, even all the original documentation and accessories and stuff are in here. Here's a copy of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2 if you're into that. It's even got the door hanger. Fraggers only. Noobs beware, you'll be pwned, mother fraggers. Put that on my door. Now, the first thing that jumps out about the board itself is, of course, its massive size. So eATX motherboards like this were extremely uncommon outside of the server space at that time, but it's not like it wasn't this big for good reason. It was absolutely packed with cutting-edge features for that era. So it uses the LGA 771 socket, or rather I should say 2 of them, which supports Xeons, but also the unlocked and overclockable Extreme Edition QX9775. Now, the Xeon platform was chosen for one main reason. The consumer chips had a different pinout that didn't support multiple sockets. And the goal here was to create an 8-core platform several years before AMD would release their first consumer 8-core CPU, and 6 years before Intel would release its own. So then, what we're dealing with here is 2 of Intel's 3.2 GHz Yorkfield Extreme Edition CPUs connected over a 1600 MHz front-side bus to a 5000 series chipset, which we can find right in the middle here. That right there provides our CPUs with all the connectivity that they need to memory, expansion slots, and all of your rear I/O and all that good stuff. Now, one of the funny things about this system is how normal it looks. Like, here's your SATA ports where your hard drives go. Here's your PCI Express slots where your graphics card goes. There's nothing about it to really immediately indicate that it is 11 years old, unless you start to look a little bit closer. Let's talk about the memory. These are really special. So they use commodity DDR2 DRAM chips, but they're actually not intercompatible with DDR2. These are called fully buffered DIMMs, or FB DIMMs. So one of the big challenges of pushing memory speeds and capacities up is the complexity of designing the traces between the memory and the controller. So in this case, that's on the North Bridge, but in a modern system, that memory controller would be on the CPU itself. Now, one of the ways to reduce trace complexity and reduce load on a memory controller is to move to a serial bus rather than a parallel one. So in simple terms, they decided that instead of having the controller communicate directly with the memory chips on the module, they'd put a chip called an advanced memory buffer onto every module that would act as a go-between, buffering all the read and write requests. Now, this extra chip here is not to be confused with the extra DRAM chip on ECC memory that's used in modern workstations and servers for error correction. Now, the AMD came with a penalty to both write speed and to latency because of the additional communication step. But at the time, Intel thought that this trade-off would end up being worth it for the future improvements in capacity that never actually materialized. By the next generation, Intel ended up following AMD's lead, moving the memory controller onto the CPU, and they ended up setting the stage for the ultimately successful plan to increase memory slot counts, which was adding more memory channels to the CPU itself. Okay, so one of my challenges getting this thing up and running was actually finding some coolers that had mounting hardware for such an old socket. Fortunately, I happened across a couple of these old Gemin 2s. These things are kind of jokes to mount, but I didn't really have a choice. They were the only non-water cooling things that were still compatible in our warehouse, and I didn't feel like rigging water cooling up to it.
This time.
There is just something about a dual socket system that just gets my inner geek going, you know? Before we boot it up, there's a couple more things I want to appreciate. One is the onboard power and reset switches. That was pretty cutting edge for the time, even if the I/O hasn't aged so well. USB 2, FireWire, and eSATA. I guess 1 for 3 ain't bad for standards that were going to still exist 10 years later. And this is really unique. So you've got your 4 PCI Express 16X slots here, but at the time, no chipset could actually directly run 4 PCI Express 16X slots. So how did they do it? So check this out. Intel's Southbridge needed some kind of a solution to increase the number of PCI Express slots. And what they used was actually 2 NVIDIA PCI Express switches, which would each take 16 lanes and split them out into 2 slots with 16 lanes each. So what this meant was, from NVIDIA's driver's perspective, all of the GPUs in the system were actually connected to an NVIDIA chipset, meaning that Intel didn't have to resolve the licensing dispute in order to support SLI on this particular motherboard, even if none of their others could do it. No, some of these holes line up. Good enough. Power connectivity is almost identical to a modern board. We're just gonna run a regular old SATA SSD off it. Yay, backwards, forwards compatibility. And then, theoretically, I can just throw my Titan X test bench card on here and it should just fire up. Okay, and a 1, and a 2, and a... Good luck, everybody. And we're up. Hey, hard drives detected, or SSD, rather. Excuse me. Old habits die hard. That's refreshing. No! So that was painless. Just fired up a drive I already had set up, and bippity boppity, no drivers required or anything. That's it. Modern Windows 10. Now, this is cool. One fun thing about this generation of hardware is that because the CPU bone's connected to the Northbridge bone is connected to the memory bone, we don't have to deal with the performance penalty where modern dual socket systems can experience worse performance when this CPU needs something from the memory that's directly attached to this one, causing an extra communication hop. So you can actually see here, all of our cores show up as a single NUMA node, which should allow basically any workload to scale well across all 8 of our cores. I mean, except for the fact that we have a north bridge, so there's just like always an extra hop. I mean, with that said, overall system responsiveness here is super usable. Like with an SSD drive in here, I would have no reason to think, unless I opened up Task Manager, that I'm looking at a super old computer here. Like everything just kind of works. So while it's definitely not modern, there are some really good things about this setup. Like this is about as far back as you can go while still maintaining most of the modern creature comforts. Like PCI Express, even Gen 1, means that we can add high-speed connectivity to this system. You want 10 gig networking, which I just installed? Boom, an add-in card and you're ready to go. You want USB 3? Boom, another add-in card, you're ready to go. Like PCI, the older generation, which by the way, it does also have a couple PCI slots in there, capped out at 133 megabytes a second, and that was a shared bus. So multiple cards plugged into multiple slots all had to share that limit. PCI Express, even the first generation version featured here, could handle up to 4 gigabytes per second on a slot like this one. Okay, so it occurs to me that we're going to be limited by our SATA 1 drive, but I'm copying a file over the network here, and we are out of disk space. One moment, please. At any rate, we should still be able to tell if we're getting an actual 10 gig connection to our server here. It should exceed 112 megabytes a second, and boom, there it is, 183 megabytes a second, which is well shy of 10 gig, but certainly more than 1. What's our CPU usage look like? I'm doing that. Oof! So let's come up with some more realistic workloads then. I mean, what about 4K YouTube? Remember guys, this is 2000, holy shit, this was in 2008. Yep. Remember when YouTube looked like this? 4K YouTube was just a twinkle in the engineer's eye when this system was released. So let's see if it can handle it. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. 4K YouTube playback, butter smooth. What does that cost us in terms of CPU usage though? Actually, that's not even that bad. We're sitting at around 20% CPU now. I'm not saying to get too excited about this, because 20% CPU on this system is about, oh, it just spiked to 300 watts, but about 250 watts from the wall, which, considering that a modern smartphone can also play back 4K YouTube in the single-digit watts, is, well, it shows you that we've definitely come a long way in the last 10 years. As for multitasking, well, even just trying to browse the web in the foreground while our 4K video plays in the background, we're gonna see spikes in CPU activity up in the range of 60 to 70 or even 80%, depending on how heavy the pages we're trying to load are. So you can actually see each page load here as it's coming in. Oh wow, loading a big Google Sheet actually got us up to 75% CPU usage. But our video is still playing back smoothly. We can scrub around, like all the features work exactly like you would expect them to. Now to see how well it's aged in terms of productivity, let's fire up Photoshop Creative Cloud. Ed, you wanna try and do something on this? Let me know if it's any good.
Alrighty.
Here's some coil line, it's working there. Is that a reasonable amount of time to open this file?
Great.